Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Beneath the quiet night sky, vast and unhurried, where the stars hang like ancient lanterns, untouched by time. Imagine a place where the earth itself seems to remember something older than words. Here, on a gentle hill in the cradle of what we now call southeastern Anatolia, massive carved pillars rise from the ground like silent guardians. They stand in circles, these T-shaped monoliths of limestone, some taller than 3 men, their broad tops outstretched as though embracing the heavens. They have waited here far longer than any scripture, far longer than the first cities, or the first written laws 12,000 years, perhaps more. It is said that those who raised them were hunters still, following herds across endless plains at the edge of melting ice. They had no fields to tend, no palaces to defend, no kings to command them. Yet something drew them to this hill again and again, season after season, generation after generation, to quarry stone from the living rock, to shape it with careful hands, and to set it upright in rings that echo the slow turning of the stars. Let your breath soften now. Allow your thoughts to settle, the way dust settles on stone after wind has passed. We begin with a single, gentle question, one that has lingered unanswered across the millennia. What moved these people who carried only flint and fire to create such vast and deliberate sanctuaries, and then, with equal care, to bury them beneath hills of earth, as though sealing a dream they were not yet ready to release into the light of day? Come closer, let us drift slowly among the circles. There are many enclosures here, some 20 discovered thus far, each a ring of pillars connected by low walls of rough stone. At the center of the largest stand twin pillars, taller and broader than the rest, facing one another like quiet companions. Their surfaces are alive with carvings, foxes that seem to watch with cunning eyes, vultures with wings half spread as if ready to rise, scorpions poised in eternal stillness, snakes coiled and alert, boars with tusks lowered, birds in mid-flight. The animals do not merely decorate the stone, they inhabit it. Even now, in the hush of night, they appear to follow your gaze. Some believe these creatures were guardians of a spirit world, messengers between earth and sky. Others feel they marked clans or seasons, totems carried in the hearts of scattered tribes who gathered here when the stars called them home. No human faces appear on the pillars, only these watchful beasts, as though the builders wished to speak through the wild rather than through themselves. And the skill of the carving, it lingers in the mind like a half-remembered song. The reliefs are sharp yet flowing, cut deep into limestone that must have been difficult to work with simple tools of flint. The pillars themselves were dragged from quarries nearby, shaped, polished in places, set upright into sockets carved in the living bedrock. All this before the wheel, before metal, before the planting of seed. Perhaps these circles were places where people came not to live, but to meet, to feast on the great aurochs and gazelle they hunted, to dance beneath the stars, to share stories carried on the wind. Perhaps shamans stood between the central pillars and spoke to realms beyond seeing. Perhaps the carvings were maps of dreams, or warnings, or offerings. The stones keep their counsel, yet the deepest mystery lies not in the raising, but in the burying. Generation after generation returned not to destroy, but to cover. They filled the enclosures with clean earth and broken stone, carefully, deliberately, until the circles vanished beneath rounded hills. New rings were sometimes built atop the old, only to be buried in turn. It was no act of violence, this concealment. It feels instead like a tender ritual, a lullaby sung to something sacred. Was it reverence to protect the sanctuaries from a changing world? Was it fear that the knowledge held here was too potent for ordinary days? Or was it a promise, a message left for some distant future when humanity might be ready again to listen? In the silence of that choice, something profound stirs. These were not tombs in the usual sense. Few human remains have been found. They were gathering places, sky temples, perhaps the first places where scattered bands became something more, where shared symbol and shared ritual planted the first seeds of what would later bloom into villages, fields, cities. And so, the emotional journey unfolds gently within us. We begin in curiosity, drawn by the strangeness of it all. How could hunters create such grandeur? Then comes recognition, soft and aching, Here, at the very dawn of settled life, something spiritual awoke. A sense of the sacred took form in stone long before gods were given names or temples roofed against the rain. We feel the weight of all those unseen hands that shaped the pillars, the voices that once filled these circles with chant or story or laughter. We feel the patience of those who buried them, trusting the earth to keep their secrets safe. Now, in our own time, the hill has been opened again. Archaeologists move with quiet care, brushing soil from carvings that have not seen daylight for 12 millennia. Yet much remains hidden still. Most of the site sleeps beneath the ground, its circles waiting in darkness as they have always waited. Let the pacing slow even further now. Allow each image to settle like dust on stone. Picture the wind moving across the barren hill today, sliding between the exposed pillars, carrying faint traces of sound, perhaps the memory of footsteps, perhaps the low murmur of ancient voices that shaped these stones yet left no names. The animals still watch, the stars still turn overhead, the same stars that guided those first gatherings. There is no urgent answer here, no final revelation, only the gentle invitation to rest in uncertainty, to feel the vastness of time as something intimate rather than distant. Perhaps these sanctuaries were never meant to endure in the open forever. Perhaps their true purpose was to sink back into the earth, carrying their whispers with them, waiting beneath ordinary ground for those quiet moments such as this one when we are ready to listen. And so we linger a little longer in the stillness, breathing with the stones, sensing that sacred chambers still sleep beneath the hill, beneath many hills perhaps, across the wide and patient earth. They wait for no one, and for everyone. When you are ready, the images fade softly like mist at dawn. Let the whispers dissolve into silence, and drift, gently, into whatever dreams may come. Let your breath become slow and even now, like the gentle sway of warm currents far below the surface of the Pacific. We descend together, softly, into waters that hold memories deeper than any archive. The light above fades to a diffuse glow, and the world grows quiet, only the distant hum of the ocean, patient and eternal. Here, off the southernmost coast of the Ryukyu Islands, where the Philippine Sea meets ancient shores, terraced stone rises from the ocean floor like the remnants of a forgotten ceremony. Vast platforms, straight steps, right angles, these forms emerge from sand and shadow, too deliberate, too composed, to be mere accidents of nature. It is said that the first to glide over these courts were divers seeking only the beauty of coral and fish. Yet something drew their gaze downward, to shapes that seemed to wait in stillness, flat expanses wide enough for gatherings, stairways leading nowhere, and everywhere, walls aligned with the cardinal directions, as though the builders still honored the path of sun and stars. Come closer, let the water cradle you. Allow wonder to rise gently, like bubbles toward the distant surface. The formation stretches across a vast underwater landscape, terraces stacked upon terraces, channels cut with precision, blocks that fit together in ways both monumental and intimate. Some call it the main terrace, others the monument itself, a single great structure, perhaps 100 meters long, its levels descending in measured grace toward deeper blue. Whispers tell us that these courts were carved when the sea was lower, when ice still gripped distant continents and vast plains stretched where waves now roll. 12,000 years ago, perhaps more, when the great melt began, and the first stories of floods were born not as myth, but as living memory. In that lost time, this place may have stood beneath open sky, its stones warmed by sunlight, its platforms echoing with footsteps long dissolved into silence. Some believe it was a city, a harbor, place where people gathered to watch the horizon. Others feel it was a sacred precinct, a temple complex oriented to solstices, a quarry left mid-work, or a ceremonial landscape shaped to mirror the order of the cosmos. No inscriptions guide us, no artifacts rest in neat layers. Only the geometry remains, speaking directly to sun and stars, as though the builders trusted form itself to carry their meaning across millennia. And the scale, it settles upon the heart like a quiet ache. These are not small carvings, not modest walls. They are courts vast enough to hold hundreds, steps wide enough for processions, platforms flat and true beneath the weight of endless water. To imagine hands shaping such stone, dragging blocks into alignment, polishing edges now softened by tide, this awakens a tender melancholy for an entire world that may lie drowned. We linger here, in the slow rhythm of waves moving over stone. Century upon century, currents have caressed these terraces, polishing what was once sharp, rounding corners, veiling edges in fine sand and living growth. Coral has claimed small territories, algae paints faint greens across beige and red, sea creatures drift through spaces that may once have known firelight and chant. Time has not destroyed this place, it has embraced it, gently, relentlessly, until human intention and natural flow become indistinguishable. Beneath the silence, questions arise like mist. Why this precise orientation north-south, east-west, as though the builders conversed with celestial rhythms still turning overhead? Why the sudden cessation, the absence of tools or offerings, as if the work paused mid-breath and the makers simply walked away? Was it the rising sea that claimed these courts, or a deliberate release, a choice to return the sacred to the deep? The narrative never insists. It only invites you to feel the weight of water above what may once have been holy ground, to sense the patience of stone that has waited through ice ages and warmings, through the rise and fall of countless tides. Let your thoughts drift now unhurried through submerged passages and open courts. Picture sunlight shafts piercing from far above, turning particles into golden dust. Picture moonlight doing the same at night, silver threads weaving downward to touch terraces that have not known direct sky for 12 millennia. Perhaps these were places of initiation, where the sea itself was teacher. Perhaps they were observatories, marking the slow dance of stars across seasons. Perhaps they were simply homes, markets, gathering grounds ordinary in their day, yet now extraordinary in their preservation beneath protective waves. The emotional journey unfolds softly within us. We begin in wonder, drawn downward by shapes too purposeful for chance. Then comes recognition, tender and poignant, whether carved by human hands or shaped by deeper forces. This landscape holds intention. It holds memory, and in its drowning it mirrors something universal: the way all things eventually return to the embrace of earth or sea, softened, transformed, yet enduring. We feel the quiet sorrow of separation from a time when people may have stood here beneath open air, from voices that shaped these stones yet left no names. We feel also the peace of preservation. No looters have disturbed these courts, no cities have risen atop them. The ocean has kept its secret gently, allowing only those who descend in stillness to glimpse what lies below. Now, as the chapter draws toward its close, let the pacing slow even further. Let each image settle like sediment on stone. Picture moonlight filtering through the surface far above, thin silver threads descending through layers of water to rest upon the terraces. They touch flat platforms, trace straight steps, pool in shallow channels. The stone glows faintly, as though remembering the moon it once faced directly. The entire formation breathes in slow rhythm with the tides, undisturbed, unhurried. There is no final answer here, no urgent revelation, only the gentle invitation to rest in communion with a place that time did not bury with soil, but submerged with water, still living, still dreaming beneath endless waves. Perhaps these courts were never meant to remain above the surface forever. Perhaps their true purpose was to sink slowly, carrying their silence with them, waiting in the deep for those quiet moments such as this one when we are ready to descend and listen. And so we linger a little longer in the hush, breathing with the currents, sensing that sacred grounds still sleep beneath many oceans, beneath the wide and patient sea. They wait for no one, and for everyone. When you are ready, let the silver threads fade softly. Let the terraces dissolve into deeper blue, and drift, gently, into whatever dreams the tides may bring. Let your breath become deep and unhurried now, as though you stand at the edge of an ancient threshold, drawing air that has traveled through stone for centuries. A single breath, cool and echoing, fills the silence far beneath the Cappadocian plateau. It carries the faint scent of earth and time, undisturbed. Here, in forgotten corners of the earth, Narrow passages wind downward like the coils of a sleeping serpent, inviting us gently into a city carved entirely within the living rock. Come, descend with me, step by cautious step, into the hidden sanctuary of Derinkuyu. It is said that long ago, when threats moved across the open skies, armies, persecutions, the turning of empires, people sought not just safety, but a deeper embrace. They chose the earth itself as guardian, hollowing soft volcanic tuff with patient hands, creating vast networks of chambers that could shelter thousands from the light of day. Whispers tell us the work began even in Hittite times, perhaps earlier, but deepened through Phrygian, Persian, Byzantine eras, layer upon layer, level upon level, until an entire world existed in voluntary shadow. 18 floors, some believe, plunging more than 80 meters into the ground, connected by corridors so narrow only one could pass at a time. The emotional journey begins softly, in mild curiosity. How could human hands shape such refuge? Then it deepens, slowly, into reverent awe at the scale. Not mere caves, these chapels with vaulted ceilings, stables for livestock, wineries where grapes were pressed in rock-cut vats, storage rooms lined with enormous jars, communal halls, even schools where children might have learned by lamplight. Wells reach deep aquifers, ventilation shafts, hundreds of them threaded upward like breathing veins, carrying fresh air and faint reminders of the surface world. Imagine families moving through these passages, rolling massive stone doors, circular discs heavier than oxen across entrances to seal against danger. They waited in stillness then, listening to the muffled world above pass by, hearts beating in rhythm with the rock itself. Lives unfolded here for months, perhaps years, bread baked in underground ovens, wine fermented in cool darkness, prayers offered in hushed chapels, children growing accustomed to the eternal twilight. The mystery rests most tenderly in those sacred spaces. We drift now into one such chapel, its walls smoothed by generations of touch, faint crosses carved simply into the soft stone, symbols of early faith seeking mercy in the deep. Altars wait in perpetual twilight, unadorned yet potent, as though still holding the breath of ancient psalms. Who knelt here, and for what grace? For deliverance from invaders, for protection of loved ones, for the quiet strength to endure shadow until light returned? The air itself seems to remember, cool, still, carrying echoes of whispered liturgies, of songs sung low so as not to reach unfriendly ears above. No grand frescoes adorn these walls, only the gentle marks of devotion. A cross here, a niche for oil lamps there. The curve of an apse shaped together sounds softly toward the divine. Some believe these underground cities sheltered early Christians fleeing Roman persecution, or later communities hiding from Arab raids, or Byzantine families escaping turmoil. Others feel the tradition reaches further back, to older peoples who understood the earth as both womb and fortress. The stones offer no inscriptions to settle the question, only their patient presence. Let the pacing slow even further now, mirroring the cautious steps of those who once lived below. Each footfall would have echoed softly, deliberately, so as not to disturb the hush. We linger on the ventilation shafts, long, narrow chimneys reaching toward distant stars. Through them came thin threads of light by day, faint silver by night, reminding the hidden that seasons still turned, that the moon still waxed and waned, that the world above continued its ancient dance. Picture one such shaft, a vertical tunnel, carefully engineered, opening far atop the plateau among fairy chimneys and vineyards. From below, it appears as a distant, star-marked circle, a promise that sky exists even when unseen. Fresh air flows downward, carrying perhaps the scent of thyme or distant rain, sustaining life in the depths with quiet generosity. In these details, a soft uncertainty settles upon the heart. What was it like to choose stone over sky, to raise children who knew stars only as pinpricks through rock, to measure time by lamp oil rather than sunrise? Yet there is peace in the choice. No storms reached here. No armies easily breached the sealed doors. The rock embraced them fully, cradling entire communities in its slow, steady breath. We feel the gentle weight of their patience, the way families gathered in communal rooms, sharing stories carried from the surface world, teaching skills that would serve both above and below. We feel the reverence in their chapels, where faith turned inward, finding the divine not in vast cathedrals, but in the intimate curve of carved stone. And so the emotional arc completes itself softly, from curiosity at human ingenuity, throughout the vast hidden architecture, to a tender recognition. Entire civilizations once preferred the earth's quiet sanctuary to the open expanse above. They lived richly in shadow, cooking, worshipping, loving, waiting until the moment came to roll back the stones and emerge. Now, as our chapter draws toward its close, imagine ascending slowly, passage by passage, until faint moonlight touches the final threshold. We emerge imaginatively onto the plateau under a vast night sky, the fairy chimneys standing like silent sentinels around hidden entrances disguised as wells or stables. Carry with you the gentle weight of knowing, but beneath this ordinary ground, chambers still breathe in darkness. Ventilation shafts still reach toward stars that have watched for millennia. Stone doors still wait, patient as ever. Altars still hold the memory of whispered mercy. There is no urgent revelation here, only the invitation to rest in sacred uncertainty. Perhaps these sanctuaries were meant to be hidden, not lost, but protected until times of need arose again. Perhaps their deepest purpose was to teach that light and shadow are not opposites, but companions. Some voices only echo when we descend into stillness and listen. And so we linger a moment longer on the moonlit plateau, feeling the cool night air, sensing the vast network sleeping below, keeping its secrets like a long, patient sigh. When you are ready, let the passages fade softly, let the stone doors close without sound, and drift, gently, into whatever dreams the earth may offer. Let your breath soften now, like mist rising from still water at the edge of dawn. We begin where the first light touches the jungle, when mist still clings to the roots of ancient trees that have entwined themselves around temple stones with patient tenderness. The air is heavy with the scent of damp earth and distant rain, and the world feels paused, as though holding its breath before the day awakens. Here, in the heart of what was once the Khmer realm, Angkor Wat rises in majestic symmetry, the visible crown, the temple mountain that draws the eye and the soul. Yet the quiet revelation comes softly. This grand moated sanctuary is only the most enduring jewel. Beyond its causeways and galleries, spreading across hundreds of square kilometers, lie countless lesser temples, half swallowed by the breathing jungle, their names forgotten even by those who walk these paths today. Come, drift with me through the veiled halls of Angkor. It is said that at its height, this was the greatest city on earth, a hydraulic empire of stone and water, sustaining perhaps 1 million souls. Kings who styled themselves god-kings raised towers to mirror the cosmic mountain Meru, canals and reservoirs to harness the monsoon's gift, libraries and hospitals to serve both body and spirit. Every surface sang with carving, apsaras dancing in eternal grace, nagas guarding sacred thresholds, devas and asuras churning the sea of milk in frozen narrative. We begin in serene admiration. Picture the walls alive with celestial dancers, apsaras captured mid-movement, their hips swayed gently, fingers curved like lotus petals opening, smiles subtle and knowing. Their forms emerge from sandstone as though breathing still, adorned with headdresses and jewels that catch faint light. Some believe these figures were portraits of real court dancers, others that they embodied divine feminine grace, descending to bless the king's works. They watch us now through centuries of moss, undisturbed, inviting a quiet reverence for the devotion that shaped them. Yet the emotional arc moves slowly, inevitably, toward tender sorrow. This was not merely a city of temples, but a vast engineered landscape, bares the size of small seas, moats and canals threading through rice fields, a mastery of water that fed the empire's heart. 1 million voices once filled these courtyards, priests chanting at dawn, children laughing near lotus pools, artisans tapping chisels in rhythmic song, elephants moving stone along sacred roads. We drift now through overgrown courtyards where cracked basins still hold rainwater and lotus leaves float like green offerings. Broken towers lean gently, their prang softened by time, reflected in pools that mirror both ruin and sky. Vines trace delicate patterns across lintels, Roots embrace collapsed galleries as though comforting what human hands once raised. The jungle has not conquered here. It has accepted a gift. Trees grow from rooftops, their branches weaving through windows, their roots cradling fallen blocks with infinite patience. The mystery centers on the deliberate abandonment, slow, almost ceremonial. Why did priests and kings walk away from these sacred galleries, leaving incense altars cold? Historical whispers speak of shifting rivers, depleted soils, prolonged droughts that emptied the great reservoirs. Others point to invasions, internal strife, the turning of trade routes southward. Yet deeper still lies a collective turning inward, a choice, perhaps, to release the grandeur, to let the forest veil what had been revealed. Was it exhaustion of spirit, or wisdom? Did the last inhabitants feel the empire's cycle complete, its cosmic purpose fulfilled, and simply step back into simpler lives? No great destruction marks the end, no burned libraries, no mass graves. Only a gradual fading, as though the city exhaled and allowed the green breath of the jungle to fill its lungs. The pacing remains languid now, each image allowed to linger like incense smoke curling slowly upward. We rest on small, intimate details. A single carved face smiling serenely through centuries of moss, its eyes half closed in eternal meditation. Rainwater collecting gently in the palm of an outstretched stone hand, reflecting fragments of sky. A naga head emerging from roots, its 7 hoods still guarding a threshold no one crosses. Fireflies beginning their evening dance above a ruined library, tracing slow paths where scholars once walked. In these moments, the heart feels the weight of impermanence, not as tragedy, but as natural rhythm. Even the grandest sacred places, built to touch the heavens, can be tenderly released back to the earth's keeping. The Khmer did not vanish. They transformed, carrying their stories southward to new centers, leaving these halls as offerings to time itself. Some believe the abandonment was an act of profound spirituality, a recognition that stone empires, like all forms, must dissolve so new growth may rise. The jungle veils not to hide, but to protect, to soften sharp edges, to integrate human intention back into the greater web. And so we arrive gently at nightfall. The mist of dawn has become the cool breath of evening, and a quiet night sky spreads above the ruins. Stars emerge one by one, the same stars that guided the astronomers who aligned these temples to solstices and constellations. Fireflies trace slow, glowing paths above collapsed galleries, their light echoing the oil lamps that once illuminated carvings. We linger here, suspended in gentle wonder. The veiled halls breathe in rhythm with the forest roots shifting imperceptibly, leaves rustling like distant prayer flags, water dripping from moss into ancient pools. There is no urgent answer to the abandonment, no final judgment on the empire's fall, only the peaceful recognition that grandeur and silence are not opposites, but companions in the long dance of existence. Perhaps these sacred places were never meant to endure unchanged forever. Perhaps their deepest teaching lies in this tender reclamation, showing that even God-King's works return to the earth's embrace, softened, transformed, yet eternally present in root and stone and memory. Some voices only echo when the jungle has grown quiet enough to hear them. And so we rest beneath the vast night sky, feeling the cool air, sensing the veiled halls sleeping around us, keeping their secrets like a long, patient exhalation. When you are ready, let the fireflies fade softly, let the mist settle once more, and drift, gently, into whatever dreams the ancient forest may weave. Let your breath become slow and deliberate now, matching the cold, thin air of the high altiplano, where the wind moves gently across stone older than memory. We begin on this vast plateau, more than 12,000 feet above the distant sea, where the sky feels closer and the earth more ancient. Cold wind slides between scattered blocks of stone, lifting fine dust in silent spirals. These are no ordinary ruins. Precision-cut andesite pieces lie as though dropped from the hands of builders who stepped away mid-thought, leaving behind the fragments of an unfinished dream. Come closer. Let the wind touch you softly as we approach the silent pillars of Puma Punku. It is said that this place belongs to the Tiwanaku culture, a civilization that flourished here long before the Inca, reaching its height, perhaps 1500 years ago, yet the stones themselves whisper of even deeper origins. The site sits beside the southern shore of sacred Lake Titicaca, cradle of myths where Varakaka was said to have called forth the sun and moon from its waters. We begin with the H-shaped blocks, massive and enigmatic, their slots and angles machined with an accuracy that seems to belong to another age entirely. Each piece weighs many tons, quarried from distant red sandstone or gray andesite, transported across harsh terrain, shaped with impossible precision. Straight edges meet at perfect right angles, surfaces polished flat to within thousandths of an inch, drill holes cylindrical and true, interlocking grooves designed to fit without mortar, seamless, enduring. The emotional journey carries us gently from quiet astonishment at this craftsmanship to a soft melancholy for builders whose names dissolved into legend long ago. Who were these hands that work stone with such patience and vision? Some believe they were master artisans of a golden era, guided by celestial knowledge. Others feel the site reaches further back, to a time when different wisdom moved across the earth. We explore the possibility that these were not mere walls or foundations, but components of something greater, perhaps gates between worlds, perhaps instruments tuned to the Earth's own frequencies, perhaps platforms aligned to stars that still will overhead in eternal rhythm. The blocks include copper clamps recessed perfectly into grooves, as though metal and stone were meant to sing together. The entire layout orients to cardinal directions, suggesting observatories or ceremonial precincts where priests watch solstices and equinoxes. Yet the mystery deepens in what is absent. No bronze or iron tools have been found capable of such work, no chisel strong enough for andesite harder than granite, no evidence of the diamond tip drills that might explain the perfect holes. How were surfaces made so flat, angles so true, without modern machinery? And why the sudden cessation? Why did the work stop so completely, leaving perfect stones abandoned mid-assembly, scattered as though the builders paused for a moment 12,000 years ago, and simply never returned? The site feels paused, suspended in time. No signs of destruction by war or earthquake mark a violent end, only this quiet interruption, as though a greater purpose shifted elsewhere, or a knowledge was withdrawn. The stones wait still, patient beneath open sky. Let the pacing remain meditative now, allowing silence to settle between each description, the way wind pauses before moving again. Picture the interlocking blocks, H-shapes sliding into one another with hairline precision, held not by mortar but by geometry itself. Surfaces reflect faint light like mirrors, flat enough to show the sky's distortion. Drilled holes pierce through slabs in perfect rows, some with spiral grooves inside, as though turned by unimaginable tools. The wind finds these holes now, moving through them with a low, mournful song and accidental music older than any known flute, older perhaps than the first carved bones of Paleolithic hunters. We linger here, breathing with the plateau. The red sandstone blocks glow warmly in rare sunlight, contrasting the cold gray andesite. Copper stains remain in clamp recesses, oxidized green-blue, hinting at alloys poured molten into place. Everything speaks of intention vast and deliberate, yet unfinished, like a sentence begun but never completed. In this stillness, the heart feels the gentle weight of loss, not tragic, but poignant. These builders shape stone as though conversing with eternity, yet left no inscriptions, no king's name, no explanation. Their legacy lies in form alone, in precision that defies the tools of their time, in alignment that still points to stars unchanged since their era. Some believe Puma Punku was a port on an ancient higher lakeshore, its gates welcoming boats from sacred Titicaca. Others see it as a ceremonial center where offerings were made to sky gods, its platforms raising priests closer to the heavens. Still, others whisper of older knowledge, lost techniques from a forgotten age, carried forward by initiates who vanished when the cycle turned. The narrative never demands answers. It only invites us to feel the pause, to sense the quiet intelligence embedded in stone. Now, as our chapter draws toward its close, let the day fade completely. Twilight deepens into night on the high altiplano, where stars emerge sharp and numerous, closer than anywhere else on Earth. Moonlight begins to wash over the scattered pieces, silvering sharp edges that have waited millennia for hands that will not come. The H-blocks gleam softly, their slots and angles, catching lunar light like invitations never accepted. The wind's low song through drilled holes becomes a lullaby, ancient and unhurried. The entire site breathes quietly beneath open stars, the same stars the builders may have used as guides, still turning in their vast wheel. There is no final revelation here, only peaceful uncertainty. Perhaps the work was meant to remain unfinished, a teaching in impermanence, a reminder that even the most precise human intention returns eventually to Earth's patient keeping. Perhaps the builders stepped away knowing the stones would speak for themselves across ages. A temple frozen in the act of becoming, holding its breath in sacred silence. Some voices only echo in places pause like this where memory fades into wind and starlight. And so we linger a little longer on the moonlit plateau, feeling the cold air, sensing the silent pillars waiting around us, keeping their secrets like a long, patient inhalation beneath endless sky. When you are ready, let the moonlight soften, let the stones dissolve gently into shadow, and drift, quietly, into whatever dreams the ancient plateau may offer. Let your breath settle into the gentle rhythm of soft rain falling on ancient ground, each drop a quiet echo from a time before cities or kings. We begin in the Boyne Valley, where the land curves tenderly under perpetual Irish mist, and the air carries the scent of wet grass and distant river. A grass-covered mound rises humbly from the earth, unassuming yet profound, keeping its secrets for 5,000 years and more. Wildflowers nod along its slopes, and sheep graze as they have for millennia, unaware of the sacred geometries sleeping below. Come, approach with me under this soft rain, drawn toward the moonlit chambers of Knowth. It is said that in the Neolithic dawn, when people first turned from wandering to tending the land, they chose this bend in the river to raise great mounds, not as homes, but as gateways. Knowth is the largest of the trio here, its curbstones encircling the base like a necklace of silent guardians, each one carved with patterns that speak without words. The chapter opens with the quiet discovery, a long passage, carefully engineered, stretching eastward into the heart of the mound. It aligns to the equinox sunrise twice a year. The sun's first rays travel its length to illuminate the inner chamber. Yet the light never strikes directly. It reflects softly from the entrance stone, bathing the space in a gentle, diffuse glow, as though the builders wished the dead to receive only the memory of daylight, not its full embrace. We drift now from gentle curiosity about these Neolithic engineers. How did they quarry, transport, and place stones weighing tons, with only antler picks and wooden levers, to a quiet reverence for ancestors who oriented their dead toward celestial rhythms? The mound holds 19 smaller satellite tombs around its base, but the great central passages, one east, one west, lead to a cruciform chamber where the bones of the chosen once rested, accompanied by offerings of carved heads and beads. The curbstones draw us deeper. More than 90 surround the mound, many bearing megalithic art, spirals that turn inward like dreams, lozenges that pulse with hidden meaning, serpentine forms that coil across the stone as though alive. These symbols appear again across distant oceans, on Orkney Islands, in Breton passages, even in Maltese temples, as though a shared dream once moved through humanity, a common language of curve and circle spoken before words divided us. Some believe the spirals represent the journey of the sun, or the soul's passage through life and death, or the turning of seasons that govern planting and harvest. The lozenges may mark lunar cycles, the serpents the regenerative power of Earth itself. No inscriptions explain. The stones simply offer their patterns, inviting contemplation rather than declaration. The mystery rests in the purpose, soft and unresolved. Was this primarily a tomb, where the elite were laid with ancestors to join the eternal cycle? A calendar, marking solstices and equinoxes to guide agricultural rites? Or a place where shamans entered altered stillness, lying in darkness to commune with spirits, guided by the faint reflected light of sacred days? The stones themselves seem to pulse faintly with intention, pick marks from antler tools still visible, corbelled roofs rising in precise layers, yet they offer no explanation, only presence. Let the pacing slow now. rhythmic as the turning of seasons the builders tracked. We linger inside the cool darkness of the chamber, where the air is still and heavy with time. Breath becomes visible here, a soft cloud in the perpetual twilight, reminding us that we are temporary visitors. The cruciform shape opens three recesses like arms embracing the central space, a stone basin waiting at the heart, perhaps for offerings, perhaps for ashes, perhaps simply to hold silence. Time feels optional in this place. The outside world, rain falling, river flowing, seasons changing, seems distant, muffled by tons of earth and stone. One can imagine lying here as the ancients may have, listening to the faint drip of water through crevices, feeling the mound's slow breathing, sensing the equinox light arrive not as blaze, but as whisper. In this stillness, the emotional arc completes itself gently. From curiosity at human ingenuity building without metal or wheel, aligning with stars using only observation and patience, to reverence for a worldview where death was not end but transition, where ancestors remained close beneath the living earth, where celestial rhythms governed the most intimate rites. We feel the tender connection across millennia. Hands that carved these spirals are long dissolved, yet their intention lingers in every curve. The shared symbols across continents suggest not isolation, but communion, a common reverence for cycles of light and dark, life and return. Now, as our chapter draws toward its close, imagine emerging slowly from the passage into night. The soft rain has paused, and moonlight spills across the entrance stone. Its carving spirals, lozenges, serpents catch the silver glow briefly, luminous as though remembering ancient fires, then fading as clouds drift over. The great mound rests again under open sky, grass whispering in the breeze, curbstones standing in patient circle. Stars will overhead, the same stars that guided the builders' alignments 5,000 years ago. There is no final answer here, only contemplative silence. Perhaps these chambers were meant to hold mystery rather than reveal it, to teach that some truths are felt in darkness, reflected softly like equinox light. Perhaps their purpose shifts with each visitor, each generation, each quiet night. Some voices only echo when we enter such stillness and listen. And so we linger beneath the vast Irish sky, feeling the cool air, sensing that beneath green hills across the world, in Orkney, in Brittany, in distant valleys, similar chambers still guard the first sacred geometries. Waiting in patient, moonlit vigil, they wait for no one, and for everyone. When you are ready, let the moonlight soften. Let the spirals dissolve gently into shadow, and drift, quietly, to whatever dreams the ancient mound may offer. Let your breath become as slow as the gentle lap of waves on ancient stone, carrying you across vast Pacific distances to a place where land and sea speak in the same quiet tongue. We begin on tranquil lagoons, where the water mirrors sky in perfect stillness, broken only by the dark forms of artificial islands, rising like offerings from the deep. Basalt logs, long prismatic columns hewn and stacked with impossible care, form walls and platforms linked by narrow canals. This is no city built upon solid earth, but one suspended upon water, a forgotten shrine floating in the middle of nowhere. Come, drift with me through these silent waterways, into the heart of Nan Madol. It is said that the builders were the Sautelar dynasty, lords of Pohnpei, who ruled centuries ago, commanding the construction of more than 90 islands across this sheltered lagoon. Yet the quiet enigma settles immediately. How were stones weighing 90 tons each, quarried from the island's far side, transported across open ocean and rough terrain, then lifted and stacked without mortar in perfect alignment? No wheels, no beasts of burden large enough, no metal tools strong enough, only human hands, perhaps guided by older wisdom. The emotional journey moves softly from wonder at this engineering to a tender sorrow for a culture that vanished, leaving only the hum of waves against stone. Nan Madol, meaning the spaces between, was a ceremonial center, a royal compound, a place of power where priests and kings dwelt apart from common folk. Central Nandoa served as the sacred heart, its massive enclosures guarding tombs and ritual spaces, while outer islands housed dwellings, canoe houses, and pools for sacred eels still tended in legend. We drift now through empty courtyards, their basalt walls rising sheer from the water, hexagonal columns fitting together like natural crystals, yet shaped by intention. Royalty and priests once performed rituals here, offerings to sea gods, initiations under starlight, feasts of yam and fish beneath palm thatch long dissolved. Legends linger, of twin sorcerers Ulsifa and Ulsifa, who levitated the stones using incantations, of dragon paths beneath the sea, along which the basalt traveled by magic, of a flying dragon whose breath hardened the logs into prisms. Some believe these tales veil practical knowledge, perhaps rafts and levers, perhaps chants to coordinate vast labor forces. Others feel they point to deeper truths, a time when humanity moved in harmony with unseen forces, raising stone through will and song. The precision speaks for itself: corners sharp, joints seamless, platforms level across shifting tides. Yet the mystery centers on the sudden abandonment. Why did the builders of this Venice of the Pacific leave their coral-filled canals silent? Historical whispers tell of overreach, the sought allure growing tyrannical, taxing the people beyond endurance, until a warrior from afar overthrew the last ruler, and the center was forsaken. The sight feels like a breath held too long. No great destruction, no burned remains, only a deliberate withdrawal, as though the sacred power shifted elsewhere and the islands were released back to the sea. Pacing remains languid now, each canal reflection allowed to settle undisturbed. We linger on small details: seaweed swaying gently around submerged walls, green tendrils dancing in currents like offerings still presented, the low thud of waves against hexagonal columns, a rhythmic heartbeat older than any drum, coral slowly claiming lower courses, softening what human hands made sharp, mangroves rooting in cracked platforms, their aerial roots hanging like veils over forgotten thresholds. In these moments, the heart feels the gentle sorrow of impermanence. This was a place of immense power, priests channeling spirits of sea and sky, kings ruling from thrones above water, rituals binding community to cosmos. Yet it emptied quietly, its people returning to simpler lives on the main island, leaving the shrine to tides and time. The basalt endures, blackened by age, yet the voices have faded, the fire's gone cold, the ceremonies dissolved into legend. Some believe the abandonment was protective, to preserve the site's mana, its sacred potency, by removing human presence. Others see it as natural cycle, like the rise and fall of tides. Civilizations expand upon water, then recede, leaving stone to witness in silence. And so we arrive at dusk, when the pacing slows to the rhythm of departing light. The setting sun turns the lagoon to molten gold, its glow spreading across canals until the heavy basalt logs appear to float, weightless, upon liquid fire. Islands silhouette against the horizon, their walls catching final warmth, while the vast Pacific beyond prepares its nightly breath. The entire complex rests suspended between sky and ocean, neither fully land nor sea, neither living city nor complete ruin. Waves continue their low conversation with stone, mangroves whisper in evening breeze, distant reef breaks in soft thunder. Fireflies or bioluminescent plankton may begin their subtle dance in shallower pools, echoing ancient torchlight. There is no urgent answer here, only gentle uncertainty. Perhaps Nan Madol was meant to be forgotten, in part to hold its power in reserve, its ceremonies continuing in the hush between tides, performed now by moon and wave alone. Perhaps its deepest teaching lies in this floating stillness, that even the most ambitious works return eventually to water's embrace, softened, transformed, yet enduring. Some voices only echo across empty canals when we listen in twilight, and so we linger a little longer on the golden water, feeling the cool evening air, sensing a sacred city still keeping its ancient rituals suspended, breathing quietly, waiting in patient communion with the sea. They wait for no one, and for everyone. When you are ready, let the molten gold fade softly, let the basalt settle into shadow, and drift, gently, into whatever dreams the lagoon may weave. Let your breath become visible in the cool air of imagination, slow and deliberate, as though you stand at the edge of an ancient threshold beneath quiet fields. We descend narrow steps carved into living limestone, each one worn smooth by countless cautious footsteps long returned to dust. The air grows cooler, heavier, carrying the faint mineral scent of deep time. Red ochre corridors curve gently around us, painted by hands that knew the earth as both womb and sanctuary. Here, beneath the sunlit Maltese landscape, lies a temple not raised to the sky but hollowed into its heart. Come, step softly with me into the starlit vaults of Hypogeum Halsophlieni. It is said that 7,000 years ago, when the first farmers tended barley on these islands, and the sea was both provider and boundary, people began to carve the subterranean world. Layer by layer, they removed stone with antler and obsidian, creating chambers that echo the curves of natural caves yet speak of deliberate vision. The hypogeum, meaning underground, spreads across 3 levels, its walls stained red with ochre pigment, symbol perhaps of blood, of life persisting beyond flesh. The chapter begins with the echoing chamber, a space whose very curves transform sound into something sacred. A low male voice spoken here resonates like an oracle, amplified and enriched by invisible architecture, until it seems to come from the stone itself, from everywhere and nowhere. The builders shaped this room with profound understanding, niches and apses tuned to certain frequencies, ceilings corbelled to gather and return vibration. Sound becomes presence, a living entity moving through darkness. We drift now from quiet fascination with this acoustic mastery. How could Neolithic people, without written knowledge or metal tools, design such resonance? To tender reverence for those laid to rest here. Fragments of more than 7,000 bodies once filled these chambers, their bones carefully arranged and tinted red with earth pigment, as though preparing for rebirth or eternal dream. The ochre was ground and sprinkled with ritual care, covering skulls and long bones in a color that speaks of life's essence. Continuing below, we explore the oracle room, where a small niche carved into the wall projects voice with particular clarity, perhaps a place for priests to speak as gods, or for initiates to hear guidance from unseen realms. Nearby lies the Holy of Holies, a small trilithon-framed sanctuary, intimate and potent, its walls bearing faint traces of original red spirals that swirl inward like pathways to other worlds. These painted patterns mirror those found continents away on Irish curbstones, in Breton passages, as though a shared impulse moved through distant peoples, a common reverence for the spirals turning. Some believe the spirals represent life's journey, the moon's phases, or the soul's passage through darkness toward light. Others feel they map altered states, guiding vision and trance. The entire complex seems designed for both sound and vision. Chambers painted red to absorb light yet reflect sound, spaces shaped so that standing waves create standing presence. The mystery lies in this deliberate shaping of invisible forces. Did initiates lie in darkness here, listening to their own heartbeats amplified until they merged with the temple's resonance, entering trance states guided by architecture itself? Did shamans or priestesses chant in the oracle niche, their voices becoming divine utterance? The walls seem to remember every chant ever offered, curves still holding the memory of vibration, red pigment still glowing faintly in imagination. Pacing is slow and intimate now, mirroring cautious footsteps in narrow passages where one must turn sideways to pass. We linger on the cool touch of stone against palm, smooth, yet marked by ancient pick strokes, on the faint scent of deep time mineral, earthy, undisturbed. On the way, breath becomes visible in cooler depths, a soft cloud reminding us of our fleeting presence. In these details, the emotional arc settles gently, from fascination at human ingenuity carving 3 levels without collapse, painting in darkness, tuning space to sound to reverence for a worldview where the underworld was not feared but embraced, where death was transition painted red for continuity, where the first songs of humanity may have resonated in these vaults. We feel the tender connection to those distant ancestors, hands that ground ochre and sprinkled it with care, voices that tested resonance and found the sacred in echo, bodies arranged not in haste but in ritual order. Their world was one of cycles, sun above, stone below, life returning to earth enriched. Now, as our chapter draws toward its close, we reach the deepest chamber, where absolute silence presses close like a living presence. No echo returns here. Sound is absorbed into red walls, leaving only the soft rhythm of the listener's own breath visible, intimate, profound. Time dissolves in this place. The outside world of Mediterranean sun and sea feels optional, distant. We emerge imaginatively, step by slow step, until faint starlight touches the entrance threshold. The night sky spreads vast above quiet fields, stars sharp in clear Maltese air, the same stars that guided the builders' rituals 7 millennia ago. There is no final explanation here, only the gentle knowledge carried upward. Beneath these ordinary fields, subterranean temples still hold the first songs of humanity, red spirals turning in darkness, echoes waiting in curved stone, resonance preserved in perpetual night. Perhaps these vaults were never meant for daylight forever. Perhaps their purpose was to teach that true vision and voice arise in stillness, amplified by darkness rather than light. Some voices only echo when we descend far enough to hear our own heartbeat join them. And so we linger a moment under starlight, feeling the cool night air, sensing the starlit vaults sleeping below, keeping their ancient resonance like a long, patient exhalation. They wait for no one, and for everyone. When you are ready, let the starlight soften. Let the red corridors fade gently into memory, and drift, quietly, into whatever dreams the deep earth may sing. Let your breath become as soft as drifting desert dust, settling slowly upon ancient stone, warmed by day and cooled by night. We begin in the narrow sick, where towering rose-red cliffs lean close, parting just enough to allow passage for those who seek what lies beyond. The canyon winds like a sacred pathway, its walls smoothed by wind and flash flood, echoing faintly with the memory of footsteps. Filtered light plays upon the rock, shifting with the sun's slow arc, until suddenly yet gently the treasury facade reveals itself, glowing in rose and gold, its columns and urns carved as though emerging from the cliff's own dream. Yet the true journey lies deeper, beyond this theatrical crown, into hundreds of lesser tombs and temples hollowed into sandstone, now half filled with drifting desert dust that veils doorways like curtains drawn across forgotten thresholds. Come, walk with me through the dust-veiled gates of Petra. It is said that the Nabateans, masters of caravan routes across arid wastes, chose this hidden wadi as their heart, a rose city blooming where water was captured and stone shaped into eternity. They dammed flash floods, channeled precious rain into cisterns, traded incense and spices from distant Arabia to Rome, growing wealthy on the breath of desert winds. Their architects blended Hellenistic grace with local genius, carving facades that imitated palaces of the living while serving the dead. We begin in awe at this theatrical reveal, the sixth dramatic narrowing, the sudden emergence of Al-Khazna, the treasury, its pediment and thrones glowing as though lit from within. The facade stands untouched by time's rougher hand, a testament to skill that turned solid rock into intricate illusion, columns rising in tiers, urns crowning the whole, broken pediment suggesting divine intervention frozen mid-act. Yet the emotional arc moves gently toward quiet, melancholy. This was once a thriving metropolis, tens of thousands living among the cliffs, markets echoing with voices in Aramaic and Greek, theaters filled with lamplight stories, temples fragrant with offerings. Water engineering sustained gardens in the desert, caravan wealth-filled homes carved high for safety. Now, silence reigns. The grand facades remain, but the city behind them has dissolved into legend, reduced to echoes and dust. We drift now through lesser tombs, hundreds, thousands perhaps, doorways yawning into solid rock, interiors half buried in fine sand carried by persistent wind. These were not mere graves, but sacred spaces meant to imitate the afterlife. Elaborate entrances with steps and pilasters, chambers arranged like homes for eternal dwelling, niches for offerings that would sustain the soul. The Nabateans carved thresholds to the next world with the same care they brought to the living city, hydraulic mastery hidden in channels, stone mastery in every chisel stroke. Whispers tell us of Dushara and Al-Uzza, gods of block and spring, honored in high places and rock-cut sanctuaries. Some believe the facades blended influences from across empires: Assyrian steps, Egyptian obelisks, Greek proportions reflecting a people at the crossroads of worlds. Others feel the carvings held deeper meaning: urns for souls, broken pediments for divine presence entering human stone. The mystery centers on this deliberate imitation. Why create such elaborate doorways into solid rock? Thresholds paused mid-crossing, then abandoned them to wind in sand. Was it conquest by Romans, who absorbed the kingdom yet shifted trade elsewhere? Shifting climate, drying springs? Or a gradual fading, a collective turning away as new routes bypass the wadi? The city feels like a breath held too long. No violent end marks the streets, only slow withdrawal, as though inhabitants chose to release their hold and let dust veil what had been revealed. Pacing remains meditative now, allowing the hush of empty plazas to settle undisturbed. We linger on small details, wind sculpting soft curves into once sharp edges, turning aggressive erosion into tender caress. Fine dust drifting across carved inscriptions, softening Nabatean script into abstract pattern. Moonlight pooling in abandoned courtyards, silvering floors where dancers once moved. A single fallen capital resting half buried, its acanthus leaves still delicate despite centuries. In these moments, the heart feels the gentle weight of transience. Petra was revealed so dramatically, rediscovered in the 19th century after centuries veiled, yet even now, countless chambers remain hidden, waiting behind curtains of dust for no footstep at all. The Nabateans mastered water in a land of thirst, carved eternity into ephemeral stone, then stepped back into the desert's embrace. Some believe the abandonment was wisdom, a recognition that no city endures unchanged, that true wealth lies in adaptation, in allowing sand to cover what fire and chisel raised. Others feel the site retains its sacred charge, its threshold still potent for those who approach in silence. And so we arrive at nightfall, when the pacing slows to the rhythm of distant stars. The wadi grows cool, wind softens to whisper, and stars crowd above the silent amphitheater, tiers of seats carved for thousands, now holding only shadow. Moonlight washes over rose stone, turning deep red to luminous silver, pooling in courtyards, tracing doorways that lead nowhere and everywhere. The entire city breathes quietly beneath open sky, the same sky that guided caravans, that watched kings process along the colonnaded street, that witnessed the last inhabitants depart. Dust settles again, veiling new layers, preserving rather than destroying. There is no urgent conclusion here, only gentle wonder. Perhaps Petra was meant to be half-veiled always, to teach that revelation and concealment are companions, that even the most dramatic city can return tenderly, Earth's keeping, its gates waiting patiently behind curtains of dust. Some voices only echo across empty plazas when wind and moonlight align. And so we rest beneath the vast desert sky, feeling the cool night air, sensing that even a city revealed so dramatically to the world still keeps countless chambers veiled sacred, silent, enduring. They wait for no one, and for everyone. When you are ready, let the moonlight fade softly, let the rose stone dissolve into shadow, and drift, gently, into whatever dreams the desert gates may guard. Let your breath become slow and humid, matching the heavy air of the pet and rainforest, where mist rises like a gentle exhalation from the earth's deep memory. We begin in the pet and dawn, soft and enveloping, with mist lifting from the endless jungle canopy in slow curls. Howler monkeys call across hidden plazas, their voices distant and primal, echoing through layers of green. Towering pyramids emerge from the verdant sea like ancient islands, their limestone steps softened by centuries of warm rain, roots tracing tender paths down once sharp edges. Come, drift with me into the eternal silence of Tikal. It is said that in the classic Maya era, when cities flourished across this low jungle, Tikal stood as one of the greatest, a powerhouse of kings and priests, astronomers and scribes, its pyramids reaching toward constellations that govern time itself. The site sprawls across mist-shrouded plazas, its temples aligned with precision to mark solstices and equinoxes, Venus risings and lunar stands. We begin in serene admiration of this Mayan astronomy. Picture the Great Pyramid's temple eye with its steep ascent and roof cone-piercing canopy, Temple 4, the tallest pre-Columbian structure in the Americas, designed not merely for height, but for sightlines to the heavens. From their summits, priests watch stars will in predictable grace, recording cycles on bark paper codices, predicting eclipses with accuracy that still astonishes. Stelae stand in plazas below, carved with glyphs recounting kingly deeds, accessions, victories, blood offerings, their faces weathered yet proud, names now requiring patient decipherment by modern hands. The emotional journey drifts gently from this admiration to tender sorrow for a civilization that stepped back into forest, leaving observatories empty. At its peak, tens of thousands lived here, nobles in palaces, farmers in thatched homes beyond the ceremonial core, artisans carving jade and flint. Markets bustled with cacao and quetzal feathers, ball courts rang with ritual games, throne rooms open to sky hosted ceremonies beneath ceiba trees sacred as world axes. We explored these spaces now in quiet reverence, temples aligned so that on solstice dawn, light strikes specific altars, stelae recording rulers like Yaso Chenkiwil, who raised Temple I as his tomb. Corbelled arches forming false vaults that seem to breathe with the jungle's humidity. The Maya understood time as cyclical, stars as divine actors, blood as nourishment for gods who sustained the world. Every pyramid was a sacred mountain, every plaza a mirror of cosmos. Yet the mystery rests in the gradual withdrawal, slow, almost willing. Why did priests cease to climb these steps at dawn? Why did cities of such power release their hold and allow roots to reclaim altars? Historical whispers speak of drought straining maize fields, warfare between city-states, soil depletion from intensive farming, perhaps social strain as elites demanded more. No single catastrophe marks the end, no burned palaces, no mass burials, only a quiet dispersal, populations moving away, ceremonies ceasing, buildings left to the elements. The jungle seems to have accepted the gift willingly, as conqueror but as caretaker. Ceiba trees, the Maya world tree, grow atop temples now, their massive roots embracing limestone blocks like gentle fingers, integrating stone back into living green. Vines trace across glyphs, moss softens sharp carvings, rain washes away stucco masks until only core stone remains. Pacing is slow and enveloping now, mirroring the humid stillness of the rainforest, where time feels optional. We linger on intimate details, Acaiba's buttress roots cascading down pyramid sides, cradling what human hands raised. Toucans flashing emerald against gray limestone, brief jewels in eternal quiet. Orchid blooms nesting in corbel cracks, purple against pale stone. The low thud of fruit falling onto abandoned plazas, nature's soft offering where cacao once spilled in ritual. In these moments, the heart feels the poignant beauty of release. Tikal did not fall in drama. It exhaled, allowing the forest to reclaim what was always borrowed. The Maya did not vanish, they transformed, carrying knowledge southward and northward, leaving these centers as offerings to time. The pyramids stand not defeated but integrated, part of the landscape again, their sacred purpose fulfilled in cycles larger than human span. Some believe the withdrawal was spiritual, a recognition that cosmic eras turn, that the current Bacton demanded renewal elsewhere. Others feel it mirrors universal rhythm: rise, flourish, release. The jungle veils gently, preserving rather than destroying, holding steadily in green embrace until curiosity calls again. And so we arrive beneath the vast equatorial night sky, where the pacing slows to the turning of stars themselves. Mist has cleared, revealing constellations the Maya named and tracked: Scorpion, Jaguar, Pleiades, burning with the same fire that guided priests millennia ago. Moonlight washes over pyramids, silvering limestone, pooling in plazas where howlers now hold court. The entire city breathes slowly beneath endless green roots shifting imperceptibly, leaves rustling like distant pages turning, night creatures moving through throne rooms open to sky. Silence here is not absence but depth, deeper than any inscription, holding ceremonies now performed by wind and starlight alone. There is no final answer here, only peaceful communion. Perhaps Tikal was meant to return to forest to teach that even grandest sacred mountains become part of earth again, their astronomy enduring in sky rather than stone. Perhaps its deepest silence invites us to listen beyond words, to cycles larger than history. Some voices only echo when the jungle has grown quiet enough to hear them. And so we rest beneath the vast canopy of stars, feeling the warm, humid air, sensing pyramids sleeping around us integrated, breathing slowly, keeping their eternal silence beneath endless green. They wait for no one, and for everyone. When you are ready, let the starlight soften, let the green embrace dissolve gently into shadow, and drift, quietly, into whatever dreams the ancient forest may offer. Let your breath become slow and measured, like the patient chisel strokes that once shaped silence into form. We begin at twilight, when the last light lingers on the basalt cliff and the monolithic Kalasa temple seems to float free of the rock that birthed it, an entire mountain sanctuary revealed through subtraction, stone removed basket by basket, generation by generation, until courtyards, viharas, and towering shrines stood open to the sky. The air is cool, carrying faint dust of ancient labor, and the world feels paused in quiet astonishment. Come, descend with me into the shadowed sanctuary of Ellora. It is said that in the 8th century, under Rashtrakuta patronage, artisans began the impossible, carving downward from the clifftop, removing vast volumes of living basalt to release a complete temple complex from within the mountain itself. Kalasa, named for Shiva's Himalayan abode, stands as the culmination, a single rock from which every pillar, elephant, and dancing god was freed by hand. Yet Ellora holds more, 34 caves stretching along the cliff, Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain sanctuaries coexisting in harmonious shadow, carved across centuries by different faiths, yet sharing the same sacred rock. We begin with quiet astonishment at this feat of devotion. Picture the process: workers beginning at the top, chiseling away the cliff in careful layers, creating multi-story facades, balconies, and bridges before even reaching ground level. No blocks were added, everything emerged from subtraction, a reversal of ordinary building, as though the temple dreamed itself into being from the heart of the mountain. The result feels miraculous: open courtyards surrounded by towering walls, pillared halls where life-sized elephants support beams, guardian lions flanking doorways, galleries where cosmic dances remain frozen mid-step, Shiva as Nataraja swirling creation and destruction, attendants caught in eternal rhythm. The emotional arc carries us gently from wonder at this human devotion, generations laboring in dust and torchlight, guided by vision alone, to gentle reverence for a place where three great traditions found common ground in stone. Hindu caves pulse with mythic narrative, Vishnu avatars, divine weddings, battles of gods and demons. Buddhist viharas offer serene chaityas and meditating Buddhas, monks' cells hollowed for contemplation. Jain sanctuaries honor Tirthankaras in austere splendor, their naked forms carved with perfect proportion. All share the cliff, the same basalt canvas, as though the rock itself invited harmony, transcending creed and shared stillness. We explore these spaces now in contemplative pace. Pillared halls echo softly with imagined footsteps, elephants and lions standing eternal guard, their trunks and manes polished by centuries of touch. Galleries depict cosmic dances frozen mid-step, Shiva's ankle bells suspended, Ganesha's gentle sway, Parvati's graceful turn. Reliefs tell stories without need for words, Ravana shaking Kalasa, rivers descending from heaven, lotuses blooming beneath divine feet. The mystery centers on the sustained vision. How did generations maintain such unity of purpose, laboring in darkness to release light-filled spaces, yet leaving no record of the master plan? No architect's name endures, no blueprint survives. The temple feels like a dream manifested outward from collective stillness, artisans guided not by drawings, but by shared intention, each chisel stroke contributing to a whole none could see complete in their lifetime. Faiths that elsewhere contended here collaborated in rock, perhaps recognizing the deeper unity beneath forms. Pacing remains contemplative now, allowing echoes to fade naturally into silence. We linger on small details, candle smoke blackening ceilings over centuries, Faint soot layers on carved lotuses like veils of time. The cool touch of polished stone against palm, smooth yet bearing faint chisel marks like whispers from unseen hands. Dust settling in crevices where incense once burned, preserving absence as presence. In these moments, the heart feels the profound reverence of anonymous devotion. These were not works of ego, but offerings stone-shaped to honor the divine. Spaces created for pilgrimage across traditions, courtyards open to sky so light could enter what darkness birthed. The coexistence speaks quietly, Hindu vitality beside Buddhist calm beside Jain asceticism, all carved from the same cliff, all enduring in shadow and splendor. Some believe the lack of records was deliberate to let the work speak alone, unmediated by name or claim. Others feel the plan lived in oral tradition, passed in chants and measurements held in memory. The temple remains a testament to collective stillness, vision sustained not by one mind, but by many hearts aligned. And so we arrive in moonlight, when the pacing slows to the rhythm of silver light washing across the open courtyard. Carved gods and dancers turn to luminous silver Shivas Damaru silent yet resonant, elephants' trunks raised in eternal blessing, lions' eyes watchful in night glow. The entire sanctuary breathes quietly within its cliff, embrace courtyards open to stars, deeper caves holding perpetual shadow. The cliff itself seems to hold breath, preserving what human hands released. Light fills spaces born from darkness, yet deeper chambers of intention remain forever shadowed within the rock that remembers every stroke, within the hearts that dreamed without claiming. There is no final revelation here, only quiet awe. Perhaps Kalasa was meant to emerge, yet retain mystery to teach that even when sacred spaces are revealed in full splendor, their deepest essence stays veiled, waiting in patient communion with stone and sky. Some voices only echo when we stand in such stillness and listen beyond sight. And so we rest in the moonlit courtyard, feeling the cool night air, sensing that deeper chambers remain shadowed within the hearts and the rock that shaped them. They wait for no one, and for everyone. When you are ready, the silver light softens. Let the carved dances dissolve gently into shadow, and drift, quietly, into whatever dreams the mountain sanctuary may offer.